Hi, this is Glenn Young with Miyar Adventures, and I'm going to talk just a little bit about packing food for a trip on Mount Rainier or Mount Baker or many of the other glaciated climbs in the Pacific Northwest. So take a look at what I have set up here. This is typically what I pack as a guide, and a lot of clients prefer to pack similar items. At the top we have breakfast, and for breakfast in the morning oftentimes it's really cold and it can take some time to prepare food. So for me, when I have to take care of other people, I like to be able to eat food relatively quickly myself. So having something like granola that's already cooked and ready to go, you can put hot water on it if you want, just like oatmeal, and that will keep you warm. But if you don't have the time, you're in a rush, you can also eat it cold. Oftentimes I'll pack a little sachet of powdered milk to go along with it, but not always. I also have some instant tea. This one is a Thai tea. It has quite a few calories. And I do calorie count when I'm in the mountains, but I'm counting up. So the more calories I can get into my body, the better, because it's actually a really difficult activity carrying heavy weight uphill for long periods of time. So I have instant tea that already has milk and sugar in it. It's full-fat milk. I have ginger tea, and this actually is pretty high calorie as well. This has quite a bit of sugar in it, which is helpful in the morning. And I also have another herbal tea just in case I'm not feeling like having that much. Sometimes at higher elevation, in particular on a peak like Mount Rainier, you might have a little bit of an upset stomach, and so I'll have something without as much calories in it in the morning, or just a little bit of extra, something extra to give to a client if they're feeling like they want some flavor in their water. So that's breakfast, and that will actually be divided into 2 days. This is set up for a 3-day climb. So that first day, you're just on the road driving, and you're going to eat breakfast while you're driving. A lot of the time, I'll just have a croissant and some coffee or something like that, or something before I go. And then this first breakfast would be coming right in here between day 1 and day 2. At the beginning of day 2, and then the next one at the beginning of day 3. For lunch, I like bagels because they're really high calorie. A bagel might have as many as 300 calories just in and of itself. And then on top of that bagel, I have cream cheese, avocado, hummus, and salami. So I have a lot of fats and mixed with a lot of carbs and a little bit of protein in there. You certainly can have a vegetarian option. You don't need to include the salami, and there's still plenty of protein in that item, along with a lot of fat and carbs that will help fuel you in the middle of the day, which is the time when you're doing most of the work. I budget 3 bars per day. And on our summit day, I also will tend to include something like shot blocks, which have electrolytes as well as a little bit of caffeine, because you're getting up really early in the morning and you might need that little bit of extra energy. And the electrolytes are really important because when you're moving for such long periods of time, you're using up a lot of your electrolytes in the use of your muscles. So you need to replace those. I'll often generally have an electrolyte beverage like Gatorade as well in a powder form, so it's lightweight to carry, and then I can mix that with my drinks if I like it as well. And for dinner, I like to keep something simple. This is just an Indian meal. Tasty Bites is a common brand. There's a variety of other brands that you could use too. Again, the nice thing about this, similar to the breakfast, is you could eat this cold. It's already prepared. It actually doesn't weigh that much more than a Mountain House meal if you consider the calories. So this is actually 2.5 servings right here. And if you look at Mountain House meals at 2.5 servings, it weighs a little bit less, but not that much less. And it's a lot cheaper, and it's already cooked, so you don't actually have to add any hot water to it. In case there's a problem with your stove, you have less time, something like that. But it's also very easy. You can just drop this pouch directly in hot water, let it cook in that hot water for 1 minute, and that's enough to warm this up. And then with that boiled water, you can just add something like this. This is a Japanese noodle, also really high calorie and just takes a couple minutes to cook. And that matters a lot because that means you can carry less fuel and you eat faster. For my second day, my dinner, I have some protein that I've added. In this case, just a sachet of pink salmon, because that's after my summit day. So I'm going to want to replace some of that protein and to help repair some of those muscles that have been working throughout the day. And then the last day, oftentimes at summit day, you've gone all the way to the summit and you come back down and you rest that night. And then the next day, I'm just going downhill, so I don't actually need as many calories. So I've just packed a single sandwich I still have 3 bars. Oftentimes I'll end up with 1 or 2 bars left over, but I can give those to a friend if they need some extra calories as well. And then just for dessert, because it's really nice to have some dessert out there, I have chocolate bar. I can divide that up into 2 nights, or I can just eat that all in one night after the summit if I want. And then I have another ginger drink because it's oftentimes quite cold at night. Also, some snacks, and I eat these throughout the day. I try never to go more than an hour to 2 hours without having some intake into my body. And certainly every 3 hours, you want to have something that's substantial, more than 300 calories, like a small meal, especially while you're moving. But these snacks are really easy just to reach and grab a few items. So I happen to love black licorice, and black licorice has molasses and wheat in it, so it actually has some complex carbohydrates as well as simple carbs. So that's really great, but not everyone loves black licorice. Inside here I also have some sour gummies. For whatever reason, sour items at altitude or when you're working out are great. They taste so much better than something that's more bland. I also have unsulfated dried mangoes and then some candied ginger in a little bag, so I can kind of choose whether I want spicy, sweet, or just sweet. Salted nuts. Again, that's really helpful to replace electrolytes. And I find inside here, I've just reused bags, so inside here is sort of some dried fruit as well as some salted sunflower seeds. And sunflower seeds are great because they're a lot cheaper to buy than other forms of nuts. And it's easy to grab a nice handful and get plenty of salt as well as fat. And then some beef jerky too. Again, not necessary if you're a vegetarian. You're still going to have plenty of calories out there. You could take a protein powder if you prefer, a vegetable-based protein powder, and mix that in with your drinks, especially in the evening to replace some of the protein that you've been using up when you're breaking down your muscle tissue. And that works out pretty well. And then you also notice I have a stuff sack here. And that stuff sack is easy for transporting my food here and there, but when I actually pack my backpack, I'll take the food out of the stuff sack and push it all around in the corners of my backpack. And I'm going to show you that in a little bit. But where that stuff sack comes in handy is when I arrive in camp and I need to take the food out of my backpack, I can put it all in the stuff sack and I can hang it. Oftentimes off the end of a trekking pole, weighted on the other end of the rock, so it's off the ground so rodents can't get to it. If you happen to be doing some light mountaineering in areas where there's bears and things like that at lower elevation, you're going to need to have a bear can or do a hang of some different variety. But here in the Pacific Northwest and most of the peaks, we're more worried about rodents like marmots and mice. And so doing a hang like that works really well, which requires a stuff sack. Oftentimes I'll just use a larger stuff sack for my inflatable thermarest, and that way I'm not packing an extra bag. I'm using that same bag for a different purpose, since I'm going to put that inside my tent anyway. If you have any questions, you can always email Miyar Adventures. Take a look for us online, miyaradventures.com. Thanks a bunch.